As the coronavirus continues to spread, people go in full panic mode, and politicians continue to politicize this issue. My name is Sean Glitton, and this is the God and Freedom Show. So it's coronavirus, and more coronavirus. Because, that's pretty much what everybody's talking about now, and it's for a reason, too. Like, this thing is getting pretty bad. Like, I honestly didn't think it would get, this bad. I know there was estimates that it would continue to spread and spread, but I personally thought those were probably just, worst case scenario estimates or whatever. So, yeah, it's getting pretty bad now. That doesn't change my opinion on how severe the actual virus is, but it's still bad. It's still pretty bad. So, yeah, let's just kind of jump right into it and everything. Let's start with kind of more updates of what's going on and everything. So, one thing I really try to do on this show is really try to get out the facts and the data of this spread, because there's a lot of misinformation going out there, and people are blowing it out of proportion, or either just not taking it seriously at all, or is that it's just a hoax or something like that. But it's not a hoax at all. So the latest numbers I got right here, as far as total people infected, or total cases so far, is about just over 150,000 people have been tested positive so far, and that's total cases confirmed. That's not how many people are infected right now. There's actually less, about, I would say, roughly over 60,000 people are probably, I could be wrong about that, but it's definitely a lot of people have recovered from this, luckily. And that's one thing that media has really ignored during this whole thing, is that they want to focus on the deaths and how many people are infected, but they don't want to talk about the actual number of people that have been that have recovered from this. So the total number of people that have recovered from this virus so far is just over 70,000 people, which is a big margin right there. And again, it's a very serious issue, a very, very serious issue that needs to be taken seriously. However, the full-on panic from the media, from everybody, is just, it seems to me to be blown way out of proportion somewhat. Just the whole kind of people panic buying stuff and everything. I'll get to that in just a little bit, but I do want to kind of share some more kind of statistics I looked up earlier, if I can pull it up, because again, I want to try to get as much of the facts out as possible, because there's so much misinformation going out. Okay. Okay, so this is from sorry. So this is kind of some charts, or to kind of tell you just the symptoms and just how actually serious it actually is or something. But it's from the CDC in China, I believe. So you can take it with a grain of salt, but this is just this has been fact checked with other sources, so it is pretty accurate for the most part. So this is on the first chart I have right here, is kind of the what the infection, how many people have the mild symptoms, or how many people have the severe symptoms. So I can see on the chart right here, about 80% of people who are infected with the coronavirus or have just mild symptoms, pretty much just flu or even just cold symptoms. And most people all they need to do is stay home, stay home and just kind of rest and just keep yourself healthy and stay hydrated and everything. And of course, there's 13% or so about that are severe and they need to be in the hospital, and about just over 4% people are in critical, so need to be in intensive care. So yeah, so that's that. And then on to the next chart right here, we see kind of the total number of people who are, kind of gives the percentage of people who have been like tested positive for it. And this kind of tells you like what the media is not reporting right here. So as you see, the current number of people that are currently ill from the number that is tested positive, again, was about over 150,000 people, but only 40% of people are currently ill with this virus, and about 56% have recovered from it. And obviously, the vast majority of people in the 40% range are going to recover, and obviously about 3.5% have died from it, which is it is a relatively high mortality rate. It's pretty high. It's definitely higher than the flu, but of course these numbers are not the best, of course, because not everybody's being tested, especially here in the United States, and so there could be a number of people who have it, who think they're just probably either staying home and getting arrested and everything and just healing on their own, which is what most people should do, since most people will be fine from it even if they do get infected. Then so if we added like all those numbers like all together, obviously the mortality rate will be lower. And obviously there's the age difference too, that's kind of takes an effect on it too. So the 3.5 the mortality rate is not the most accurate piece of data. So on to the next chart right here. Come on. So this is like the kind of a chart of who is the most at risk right here. And of course, again, it's by age. And so from like, if your age is from 0, like a baby, to 9 years old, you're like 0% at risk to die, or you can get infected, but you'll be less likely to die, which is pretty crazy too. So there was a 15-month-old baby who contracted the virus as well, and he or she fully recovered. So, but if you're like 9 and 10 to 19, you're about 0.2%, and same thing for 20 to 29, 30 to 39. And as you get, the 40 to 49 range, you're at 0.4%, which is still very low risk. 50 to 59 is at 1.3%, which is still fairly low risk. But as you get 60, 70, 80 plus, you start getting more likely to get infected, or at risk to get some serious symptoms from this. And as it kind of tells you right here as a note to why it spread so badly in China, it's for their health is not great at all. As it says right here, the data comes from. So yeah, this data right here comes from the first people who were infected in China, and the majority of a lot of people in China have very poor lung health, and that's from smoking, and it's kind of the air pollution in China too. Air pollution in China is bad, so that definitely plays an effect on it. So, but again, this number, it is based off what China has, but it's still, it aligns with other countries as well, so it's not too far inaccurate. And this chart right here tells you those who with these existing conditions, if they get it, who are at the most at risk right here. So if you have cardiovascular disease, you're at a 10.5% risk right there. which is pretty darn high. And you have like diabetes, I guess like both type 1 and type 2 diabetes, you're at 7.3%, which definitely hits close to home for me. Was my brother is the type 1 diabetic, so I mean that's it's definitely serious, and just pray he doesn't contract it. So anyways, the chronic respiratory disease right here is about 6.3% at risk. And then as you get abnormally like high blood pressure, you're at about 6%. And cancer, if you have like cancer, whether you have cancer or you've recovered from it or something, your immune system is still pretty low. So if you still recover from it, the chemo and radiation treatments can weaken your immune system. So that definitely puts you at risk. So that's at about 5.6%. And people with, of course, that are healthy and don't have any of these conditions right here are at 0.9% risk, which is very, very low. And again, the vast majority of people fall into the 0.9% range. So, and that doesn't mean that we should ignore the older people and people who with these conditions right here. Actually, most of our resources should go to them to help them not to get it. But everybody else, just take the normal precautions and everything. So this right here, this is a chart of just how contagious and deadly it is. Again, we don't fully, again, like I said, you can't, it's not fully calculated as of right now, just because there's just so much unreported cases and just everything going and all that. So I mean, I see right here on the chart is around, like, as far as like death rates is about 1%. So it's the mortality rate. So the fatality rate ranges between 0.7 to about 3.4%. So it's probably somewhere more in the middle, or actually probably it'll get more closer to the 0.7% as probably more people are getting tested and everything. But as in transmission for the coronavirus is 1.5 to 3.5 per person, 3.5, 1.5, and all that. So as seen on the chart, also there is obviously the compared to other viruses on here. So for the common cold, has like it can spread from person to person fairly easy, I guess, but it has like a very, 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 very low mortality rate. And the seasonal flu has right here. You see, so the seasonal flu is definitely has a lower mortality rate. And again, we can't rely on that just yet, just because we don't have the proper number of testing going on. But as you see, the other viruses right here, chickenpox can spread a lot more, and also you get higher. You got the MERS, the SARS. The SARS is actually a version. The MERS and SARS is actually a version of the coronavirus. So those are actually much worse, right there. So SARS has a higher mortality rate, and the less higher mortality rate, and MERS has a definitely more higher mortality rate. And obviously Ebola to bird flu and everything. So yeah. And again, I'm not showing this information to say, oh, we shouldn't take it serious or anything. We should definitely take this virus serious. But I want to really kind of show this data and these charts to kind of tell you, like, where is at the terms compared to other diseases and everything, and like who's likely to be affected, like what's likely going to happen in the long run and everything. So the next chart right here we got. So this is the fatality rate by country right here. Obviously China, what in the world? Come on. Sorry. So the China right here has, obviously you can see, about a 3.9% mortality rate, or fatality rate, sorry, yeah. But you see, South Korea has a 0.7%, Italy has a 5% fatality rate, Iran has a 3%, right, yeah, Iran has 3%, France has a 1.6%, Germany has a 0%, nobody has actually died in Germany from it, which is pretty interesting. So I'm probably definitely different population compared to the other countries. Let's get down. Spain has a roughly 2.5%. The U.S. has a 4% fatality rate. And again, like I said earlier, there's a number of people who probably have it who does not have been tested yet. So that one, the fatality rate is still kind of wishy-washy. But as you see, there's several others here. Yeah. So the next chart right here. Come on. So this chart right here is basically, this is the number of people who die from certain diseases per day, and the kind of comparing what it does. So, like tuberculosis, I probably didn't say that right. About 3,000 people die per day from that. Hepatitis B, about 2,500 people die from it. 2,200 die from pneumonia. HIV and AIDS have about 2,000 people, or 2,100. Malaria about 2,000, and so on and so forth. So you get down lower to the coronavirus, about 56 people die per day from it. And compare that to the seasonal flu right here. That's about, people who die from the seasonal flu per day is about 10,000 or 1,000, sorry. So while the coronavirus right now has the higher fatality rate, from the numbers, it seems like still the flu kills a lot more people per day. And so that tells you we just don't have enough information to accurately call what the fatality rate is. So, and this is the final picture right here, I believe, right here. And this is kind of what the media has been talking about, like, constantly. This is the number of mentions of viruses mentioned in the media. So for SARS, it was 56 million, about 56 million times. HIV was about 40 million. MERS about 23.2 million. Ebola about 11 million. Pneumonia about 5 million. And malaria about 5.9 million. And it goes down. But coronavirus has been mentioned in the media 1 billion times. 1 billion times. And you can see from the data I just gave you, yes, it needs to be taken seriously, obviously, but it's not there's people saying this is the worst virus they've ever seen before. This is nowhere near close to the worst virus in existence. Again, the vast majority of people who get it will get very mild symptoms, if they get it at all. It is going to continue to spread in the United States here and so forth, but still, the likelihood of, like, everyday normal people getting it is very low, especially with the precautions everybody's taking right now. Which is, a good thing, and that kind of good thing, and obviously kind of some ridiculous stuff going on. So kind of the good stuff that people are doing right now, some schools are closing and everything, like some schools around my area, church services are being moved to, like, online services right now, just kind of for the next couple weeks, not definitely, but for the next 2 weeks until this thing kind of runs its course, which it will run its course and everything, because it is dying down. Actually, in China right now, the number of people getting infected right now has almost stopped. Like, the number of people who are tested positive from it has almost stopped, and it's starting to go down. More people are starting to recover. and everything. So it is dwindling down in also in China and South Korea. So obviously it's gonna probably affect more people, and then run its course and then just die out, which is what normally these type of viruses do. So I'm going to continue talking about the coronavirus and everything, but first you can have to go over to YouTube or WordPress on my website, the God and Freedom blog, to hear the rest of it. So not only will we get the rest of this episode, I'll talk at the back half of the episode. I'll talk about go over finish up John chapter 9 today, and also in the back half you get the good stuff and bad stuff of the week. Remember, you can find me on your favorite podcast listening sites like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Otherwise, I'll see you all next week. My name is Sean Clinton, and this is the God and Freedom Show. Alrighty, so like I said, there's definitely some precautions that are taken that are good, but there's definitely people who are just overblowing it by a long shot. So again, schools are closing, church services are being canceled, and all that, which is all a good thing. Just kind of these simple precautions, whatever. Like for example, like my work is we haven't been closed at all. We probably won't. We're just kind of just monitoring the situation. We actually sanitize our floors and everything. So, but again, people, of course, there are some people that are just taking this thing to a whole nother level. So I'm pretty sure you heard the whole toilet paper frenzy. What I'm trying to get, I just don't understand why toilet paper of all things. As far as I know, diarrhea is not a symptom of this virus. I mean, as far as I know, unless it just somehow mutated, and I just don't know about it. But of course, there's some other thing water is being taken out, some canned goods are kind of being depleted, but the biggest thing is toilet paper. I just don't understand why toilet paper. So, a picture I have right here, you can see, this is the shelf at, I think, Walmart, I believe. This is where all the toilet paper was. It is all gone. And I've been, just yesterday, I had to go, because we need toilet paper, of course, and I'm not talking about, getting toilet paper to hoard it or anything. Just simply, we just need toilet paper, we're out. And the problem is, I had to go to, 4 separate stores, actually, to just find this stupid toilet paper. So I went to a Publix, to a Kroger, to another Publix, and then finally I found some at Dollar General. So, and they're almost out too. So just this panic buying, it just makes no, it's silly. It's silly. Just get the stuff you need for the next couple weeks if you want to stay isolated. Again, there's some people that are choosing to be self-quarantined for the next couple weeks, which is, if they want to do that, that's totally cool and up to them. But again, you don't need 100 things of toilet paper, 100 cases of toilet paper to last you 2 weeks, unless you have some weird problem down there or something. You don't need that much. I mean, it's not like we're going to be trapped in our houses for months or anything. I mean, come on. You can't. Probably because I'm guessing because people are seeing what's happening in China, and I mean that's why everybody's figuring out or whatever. But again, you can't compare what has happened to China with what's going to happen in the U.S. You just can't, because China does have a higher population, and they are roughly almost our size, I would say. But at the same time, their health system and everything, their health overall, it's terrible, and not even comparable to what the U.S. is. The U.S.'s healthcare and everything, the health of the overall American people is pretty good. That's why the spread is not is spreading like a lot, but it's not going to be like millions of people. Millions of people are not going to die from it or anything. So, but of course, some precautions that you can take from this. Don't panic by like this, but there's definitely some precautions you can take. Just simply wash your hands and all that. Keep personal hygiene, stay hydrated, and all that. And also, if you feel like you're getting sick, of course, stay home and don't go to work. And if you're at work and you haven't seen someone, kind of that doesn't feel well, you can simply do this. Alert them like this.
2319! We have a 2319!
Red alert! Red alert! Red alert!
So you can do that. And also, there's definitely a lot of places that are being sanitized and everything. Like I said earlier, my work, we just did our floors, cleaning our floors and everything. We were planning to do that anyways, but this kind of it needed to happen right now to do all this. So, and plus, but of course, if you are kind of not feeling well, but you still want to go to work, just let your work know if you still want to go in for some reason. Again, I recommend don't. But if you do go in, I just recommend that your work do this to you to make sure other people don't get sick. Is it cruel? Maybe. Nah, not really. But still, just again, take precautions, but don't panic about this. Alright, so let's talk about kind of what President, the Trump administration and all that's been doing. So I'll be honest, for the past couple weeks or so until this last few days, Trump administration has not. The Trump administration actually has been doing good, with this thing, but of course, as far as Trump himself, he has kind of messed with the whole situation a lot with his usual Trump antics or whatever. He's contradicted a number of times, said a number of false statements about the spread and the coronavirus and everything. So that is not helping in the least. But thankfully, over the last few days, he's wised up and just actually speaking actual good things, a couple of things. So yesterday, he held a press conference where he said he's going to declare a national emergency, and here's what that looked like.
To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency. Two very big words. The action I am taking will open up access to up to $50 billion of very important and a large amount of money for states and territories and localities in our shared fight against this disease. In furtherance of the order, I'm urging every state to set up emergency operation centers effective immediately. You're going to be hearing from some of the largest companies and greatest retailers and medical companies in the world. They're standing right behind me and inside of me. I'm also asking every hospital in this country to activate its emergency preparedness plan so that they can meet the needs of Americans everywhere. The hospitals are very engaged. The emergency orders I'm issuing today will also confer broad new authority to the Secretary of Health and Human Services. The Secretary of HHS will be able to immediately waive provisions of applicable laws and regulations to give doctors, all hospitals, and healthcare providers maximum flexibility to respond to the virus and care for patients.
All right, and that's exactly what he needed to say. That's obviously a snippet of the press conference from yesterday, but He did really good in that press conference, and it actually kind of, it seemed like to calm everybody down from everything. And actually, how you can tell that is just the stock market. The stock market has been absolutely crazy. Like, really, it's been like going up and down. Like, at first, obviously, if you remember, it went like, it surged down badly, and then it kind of rose up and went back down, and then rose up a little bit, but went down and down and down, and then just yesterday, and then probably today, it's starting to skyrocket back up, and it's the biggest gain. And after we had the biggest loss in like almost biggest loss in history, and then the biggest gain in history, and all within a few days, which is so crazy. So the stock market is unstable at the moment, but so hopefully it'll start kind of calming down and just slowly start gradually going up as people are calming down from it and everything. But overall, the Trump administration has been doing good at doing this. Like, the doctors and everybody who are in charge of the task force has been doing a good job, giving out the proper information out to people and everything. The CDC is doing a great job giving out the information needed to everybody. So, good on them, and hopefully, we can continue this progress at all. Of course, the media. I swear, the media has just been utter and complete garbage during this whole thing. They're always garbage, but during this time where everybody needs to come together and everything, they took this opportunity to go full on against Trump in every way, shape possible. So, like, just for example, like, over the past like week or so, there was this controversy about someone called the coronavirus the Wuhan virus, which means Wuhan is where it originated from. Which, I'm trying to think, that's not the worst thing in the world. Honestly, most viruses are named after where they came from. Ebola is named after the Ebola River in Zaire, Africa. Or not Zaire, but like I'm trying to think. The West Nile virus comes from the West Nile, another disease, the Spanish flu, and everything. So there's many diseases that are named after the origin of where they came from. So why is this any different? But someone called the Wuhan virus, and the left just lost their minds over it. So here's a piece from Salon about it. It's just so dumb. I just don't get it. Wuhan coronavirus and the racist art of naming a virus. The rhetoric around 2019 novel cove, the Wuhan coronavirus, plays a centuries-old racist sentiments against Asians. Someday I will draw up a visual flowchart to explain how epidemics are named for the public. Specifically, there is a logic employed by both the media and scientific community, though neither speak aloud. It starts with the question of where the virus originates. It is currently spreading in the U.S. Is it currently spreading in the U.S. or in another racist country? Another Western country. If so, give it its numerical designation or reference the animal in which we think it started, swine flu, mad cow disease. But if it is started in a country that Americans have stereotypes towards, naming it after that region, as with the Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome, MERS, Asian flu, and now Wuhan coronavirus, it's a great way to play xenophobic and racist tropes. Okay, that's so dumb. The reason why it's named so many different viruses is to kind of tell you the difference between different strains. There's many different strains of certain viruses. Like, for example, the coronavirus, there is the MERS, which is the Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome, and then there's the current coronavirus, But the MERS and the Wuhan virus are all the same virus. But scientists, everybody, the reason why it's kind of named differently, it just tells you what strain it is and where it started and everything. So it doesn't make sense to me. And for the flu, there's definitely different names for the flu. The swine flu, the Spanish flu, the bird flu, the seasonal flu. Everything. So to call this xenophobic and racist, it makes no sense at all. And it just whatever. It continues right here. Yes, that means that white supremacy can be a factor even in the way that we name viruses. Are you kidding me? Such as when the language around it, purportedly objective and scientific, stems from a white-centric xenophobic perspective. Okay, the people who are naming it the Wuhan virus are not doing it to blame the Chinese for doing it or anything. Again, the Chinese government could be responsible. The Chinese government, not the Chinese people. The Chinese government could be responsible for doing it, but again, it seems like it originated from an animal around that region, which is how some diseases are actually spread from animal to human. So people are not. Of course, there are some a-holes that are talking to agents over it, but the vast majority of people are not naming it that way to blame it the Chinese war. Fears over a possible pandemic over the 2019 coronavirus, tagged by most media outlets, including the New York Times, the Wuhan virus has transmogrified into unchecked xenophobia and racism. With children being barred from music lessons, people running away from any person who looks East Asian. In New York City, there have been several reports of assaults on Asian people, an assailant punching and kicking a woman, calling her a diseased B word, and Trump-enabled races adding him on Twitter, suggesting the entire country, China, should be nuked. Again, yes, there's plenty of a-holes right here, but this is not the majority of people. It's not the majority of conservatives, not the majority of Trump supporters. These are a minute number of people who are doing this. Trump's overheated rhetoric on migrants and people of color in asshole countries, as he calls much of the world, are absolutely fanning the flames of racist response to the coronavirus. Yet it is important to recognize that this bias against agents is nothing new. That the engine of white supremacist culture and language continually hums around underground until something like coronavirus, whatever, makes it visible. The idea that Asians are dirty, eat strange food, and are vectors of disease have existed for as long as Asians have been in the U.S., and these ideas continue to exist today. This entire article is just dumb. Again, yes, there is people attacking Asians who shouldn't, but that's not a deep systematic racism in the entire United States. Again, it is a minute number of people who are doing this. The vast majority of people know that Asians here are not responsible for that or anything. It's so freaking dumb. The media is they're responsible for the panic too. They have driven up this panic so far, and I hate to say it, I think they're doing that just to go after Trump. It just seems like that way. But probably the most disgusting part about all this is what Democrats have done. Again, Democrats and Republicans have politicized the issue many times, but Democrats did something so disgusting yesterday, or in the last couple of days, that it just tells you that they're not taking this seriously. they want to say, oh, Trump doesn't know anything about this, he's not taking it seriously enough or anything. But here's what they did. So apparently, according to the Blaze right here, Nancy Pelosi, there was a coronavirus relief bill going around that went out to be voted on and passed and everything, which would have been great. Added some extra money to help, with this relief effort. But what Democrats did, what Nancy Pelosi did, is that she snuck in a taxpayer fund in there that would have a taxpayer funded abortions. So the money from this bill, that some of the money that in this bill would have gone to pay for abortions. So here's what the Blaze says right here. So according to the Daily Caller, senior White House officials say that during negotiations with the Trump administration regarding a coronavirus economic relief package, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi sought to include a loophole that would guarantee federal funding for abortion services. The officials claimed the California Democrat tended to lobby for several provisions that slowed down a bipartisan working group in her talks with the U.S. Treasury Steve Mnuchin. Among Pelosi's demands, according to the Daily Caller, was $1 billion to reimburse laboratory claims. White House officials told the publication that if approved, this would create a precedent of health spending that circumvents a federal ban on taxpayer-funded abortions. The ban known as the Hyde Amendment does not allow clinics or medical centers that perform abortion centers to receive federal dollars. A new mandatory funding stream that does not have Hyde protections will be unprecedented. A White House official told the Daily Caller. Under the guise of protecting people, Speaker Pelosi is working to make sure taxpayer dollars are spent covering abortion, which is not only backwards but goes against historical norms. So I just don't get why in the world would you do this? Why put this issue in here for a relief effort that is helping to fight the coronavirus? Why put it in a fund that will help fund abortions? And of course, Republicans rightly did not pass this because, we don't. Yes, it's a serious issue, but that doesn't mean we should sacrifice our values, our pro-life values for it, or anything. And of course, I think Pelosi did this on purpose. And then now they're gonna say, "See, Republicans are not taking it seriously. They don't care about people who die from the coronavirus or anything." So again, they added this on purpose, which is so disgusting, and they should be ashamed of themselves. And I swear, Democrats just stupid so low sometimes, especially regarding abortion. It is unreal. And I just hope turnout for Republicans is very good in November, because these people, Democrats, cannot hold power anymore. They're just so disgusting, and they're just so power hungry. They're willing to do anything to hold power. Alrighty, so that's enough of the coronavirus right here. So let's go on. Let's talk about the book of John right now. So let's finish up John chapter 9. So it's going from verse 35 to about 41, which is a very short passage. And you can follow me along if you want. I'll be in the New Living Translation, of course. Alright, here's what it said. Alright, when Jesus heard that... Goodness gracious, I can't talk. When Jesus heard what people had... Gosh, sorry guys. When Jesus heard what had happened, he found the man and asked, "Do you believe in this Son of Man?" The man answered, "Who is he, sir? I want to believe in him." "You have seen him," Jesus said, "and he is speaking to you." Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, I believe, the man said, and he worshipped Jesus. Then Jesus told him, I entered this world to render judgment, to give sight to the blind, and to show those who think they see, but they are blind. Some Pharisees who were standing nearby asked, are you saying we're blind? If you were blind, you wouldn't be guilty, Jesus replied. But you remain guilty because you claim you can see. Dang. So Jesus is dropping the hammer right there. So, like, let's go back kind of right here in the first part right here when he says that Jesus actually went out and found the man. That tells you that not only was Jesus approachable, but he approached people. So there was this old sentiment that went around in the early church that basically, since Jesus is so divine, that he was not approachable, and that's where the idea of praying to saints and Mother Mary and all that's where I kind of originated from. But that completely undercuts the case that Jesus was not only approachable, he approached people, normal sinners like us. So yeah, I mean, this is a short passage, but it's really, really good right here. And like what he says right here when he says, you claim you can see, but you're actually blind. It kind of like that compares to like people today who claim they're Christians, but they're actually not, or anything. And so, like, say, because people who are who are actually blind or say lost, who know they're lost, and I just can't talk for ourselves. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a really good passage, and so next week will be starting John chapter 10. So yeah, we're moving through this slowly but surely. So I mean, but again, I want to take my time with the book of John. It's a really good book. Alrighty, so let's get into some good stuff and bad stuff of the week. So some good stuff of the week. Kind of just going on a good note right here. So as you know, I'm a big fan of the CW like kind of DC shows, especially The Flash right now. The era has ended, so not. It's kind of a viewpoint by this point, but The Flash After Crisis has been really good. It's gone in a very interesting directions right here that they have taken. There's many after effects of what happened to Crisis and everything. It's really cool to see. So, but if you're a fan of the comic book series, the past a couple episodes or so have been really good and very kind of comic book nostalgic type deal. But here is kind of a promo from the latest episode that aired. It's called The Death of the Speed Force, which is based off the comic book the same name.
I didn't just come back to see family. Lately, I've been sensing that there's something wrong with the Speed Force.
I didn't know anyone else was affected.
The Speed Force is beyond repair. What did you do?
So, okay, so basically what happened in this episode, spoiler right here, spoiler alert. Basically what happened is that the Speed Force is basically dying, and the reason for that is because during Crisis, the Spectre, which was Oliver Queen, he gave full potential, very full potential to him, and then that leaked some kind of weird substance into the Speed Force, which caused them to die. So basically, they're losing their speed. What it seems like. But so it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. And of course, now we got Barthon is back, which is the Reverse Flash, which is the best villain in this entire series. I can't wait to see where this goes. It's very interesting stuff. Alright, so we're going to skip the bad stuff because this has been enough bad stuff, so it's kind of end on a good note. So I'll be back here next week with whatever other crazy stuff, probably more coronavirus stuff, but we'll see. My name is Sean. See y'all next week. My name is Sean Clinton, and this is the God and Freedom Show. If you enjoyed this episode of the God and Freedom Show, hit that like button and follow the page to get more content. You can also find me on your favorite podcast listening sites like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Thank you for listening or watching.